Effective Communication and Diversity. In this video, we will consider diversity and its influence on communication. The intersection of diversity and communication is complicated because there are so many factors that can influence the way we interact and communicate with each other. We will consider the way different factors require unique communication responses. Despite the many differences that may create communication issues, there are some common principles that can help focus communication and ensure that both communicating and listening are done successfully. These 4 common principles appear in a book about communicating through generational differences, though the principles themselves can be used to address all types of diversity. In the readings, these principles are summarized by focusing on respect, trust, and values, which is just the beginning. These principles are not meant to ignore diversity. They are meant to find common ground and to focus communication in a way that allows for growth, change, and understanding. Reflect on a time when you needed to communicate with someone of a different race, gender, culture, age, etc. Consider how focusing on any one of these principles might have helped. If you can't recall a time, imagine a context in the future that is in line with your goals. Imagine interactions that may happen in your future career, academic classrooms, etc. You can pause this video and jot down some notes. This will help you in your discussion. McHenry County College instructor Sarah Ruthven recalls a time when diversity in communication had to be addressed. She says, "I was organizing a volunteer opportunity with a Latina woman. She and I had to write a vision statement for the outreach program. I wrote a statement and sent it to her for her input. She really struggled with what I wrote, and her suggested changes seemed to really stray from our goal. We had to figure something out. When we focused on our common values, we came up with some clear terms that worked for both of us. As it turns out, she read what I had written as too forceful, and she was concerned that the directness would turn away our audience, whose cultural tradition was to be more deferential. When we focused on values and culturally sensitive ways of showing respect, we came up with a strong vision statement that best met our needs." There are many nuances to face-to-face communication and many possible contexts. Throughout your time at MCC, you will be challenged to respond to many communication styles, contexts, and issues. Various fields of study require and teach very different communication needs. But in most areas, whether customer service communication, expert in a field, or managerial communication, diversity will be present, and communicators must be thoughtful of its impact. As you read material, some cultures are more dependent on nonverbal context than others. This is often based on long-standing cultural traits or beliefs, even religious-based considerations. When conversing with someone who bases understanding on nonverbal context like vocal tone, gestures, and facial expressions, it is important to be mindful of the many traits that can influence meaning. The benefit of high-context communication is that the listener is tuning into your message, and even when you cannot find the perfect phrasing, a high-context listener is focused on your tone. In contrast, a low-context communicator will focus on your words, using things like tone and facial expressions as secondary. Hierarchy can also play an important role among diverse groups. Traditions where men are considered authorities, or an older age is connected to wisdom, hierarchy can also be a factor in communication. Knowing the audience, but also being sensitive to these differences can improve communication. For example, in China, largely influenced by Confucian tradition, relationship hierarchies are extremely important to communication. In relationships like boss to employee, teacher to student, parent to child, roles where one person has authority over another, communication situations can be challenging. In these situations, the common principle of respect and trust will help to navigate power hierarchies and help to deliver a consistent message. There are many netiquette rules and iterations online. Oftentimes in online courses, instructors will offer up their own netiquette rules, or they may rely on outside sources for basic interactive rules. These are just a few of the guiding principles for online communication. Online communication has the promise to offer global, non-hierarchical communication. But as we have all seen, it can also be the source of many misunderstandings as a harsh, faceless environment. Following these basic rules will ensure that in any context, communication is made clear. You may be thinking that these things seem basic. Who could forget that they are conversing with humans? One of the ways this commonly plays out is that online, with nonverbal cues to watch for, we can make some poor assumptions as communicators. We often assume that the people we interact with are just like us, with no visual proof to the contrary. In reality, the digital world is highly diverse. Following the guidelines and being especially mindful of thoughtful communication will help you to navigate in this tricky environment.